Full time from the Hawthorns in the Premier League. Instant match reaction. West Bromwich Albion 0. Newcastle United 0. A very dull, boring, predictable game. Sam Allardyce versus Steve Bruce. I should have known. All neutral fans would have went for a 0-0 draw, and that's exactly what we got. It's not going to live long in the memory. It's one of those games where you could tell it was a relegation 6-pointer. Both clubs are in dire need of the 3 points. West Brom, you would say, more than us, but we needed the 3 points in terms of our running come April. I looked at the Wolves game and the West Brom game. 6 points for me was nothing more than we needed, and unfortunately we've only picked up 2. It was one of those games where I'm disappointed because West Brom were there for the taking. They don't have a lot of quality. Neither do we. We've got injuries. We're missing Callum Wilson, Almiron and ASM. We badly missed them today in terms of final third quality because it was non-existent this afternoon. We were very boring and predictable to watch from the very get-go. I feel like any sort of hope I had of 3 points was vanished when I seen the starting 11 by Steve Bruce this afternoon. Why is he starting Joe Linton over Dwight Gale when Dwight Gale's actually got pace? He's got a bit about him. Joe Linton offers nothing, and that was proven this afternoon. His shot is awful. He is not a Premier League footballer. He belongs in the Championship. Joe Linton does not fill me with any confidence, and the minute you see him on the starting 11 is just, it's alarm bells because we're not going to do anything in the final third. Whereas with Dwight Gale, you'll get a bit of something, a bit of fight, which we've seen in the second half. The first half was just typical of us when you've got Joe Linton starting. Nothing really happens. He missed some gilt-edged opportunities to actually see us score a couple of goals. That never happened. Why is Steve Bruce starting Jeff Hendrick for a start? What does he bring to the side? He's awful. Another Championship footballer. He's just a passenger. He stands there. He offers absolutely nothing. I would rather have started one of the Longstaff brothers. At least then they give you a bit of energy. They'll get you up and down the pitch. Jeff Hendrick, you'll get the complete opposite. Apart from that, I wasn't so bothered about the rest of the team lineup. It was as you expected. But going into the actual game, we were so boring. There was no real urgency from anyone. Like, in terms of making something happen. We were picking up the ball and giving it away on numerous of occasions. And West Brom were finding it quite easy to deal with us in terms of they were getting the ball and literally being a lot more positive than we were, trying to make something happen. Whereas for us, we were panicking. It was all too rushed. And you could tell that it was that bottom end Premier League fixture where, the service is not going to be 100%. And it wasn't. The service was terrible. It really was. It was terrible all afternoon against the side that we are expected to beat. And we didn't do it. I mean, first half alone, we had 2 big chances. The first one was when Ryan Fraser, he was put clear. He was in 8 acres of space. He found himself into the box. All he's got to do is quickly square it across to somebody and it's a tap in, it's 1-0. No, he doesn't do that. He spends far too much time trying to think about it, and you can't in a relegation battle. Another chance wasted. Then Joe Linton gets put through. All he's got to do is pick his spot. He's got plenty of time and he doesn't do it. And then West Brom get back and clear the danger. If he actually squares that across to Fraser, who's making a good run, then for me, if he receives that ball, once Joe Linton squares it when he's supposed to, he taps that in, it's 1-0. Okay, West Brom had their chances before half-time and didn't take them. But 0-0 at half-time was probably what everyone was expecting, just lack of quality, from both sides. And I'm just annoyed at that point because, there was chances there to have actually gone a couple of goals clear and then try and build it. Second half, it was slightly better, but not much more than that. Obviously, Steve Bruce got sick and took off Jeff Hendrick. Thank goodness for that. And he brought on Dwight Gale. That's a positive substitution. He comes on and he tests Johnston. It's a good save. And West Brom, they have chances as well. It's sort of back and forth. The typical type of relegation game. And I'm just disappointed because with Dwight Gale on, we looked a lot more of a threat. But then we didn't do a lot in terms of going on the attack. And the game finishes 0-0. One of those ones. Is there any positives I can take from the game? A couple. It's a point on the road. We've gone 4 points clear of Fulham, who are in 18th in the relegation zone. And then we've obviously picked up a clean sheet, which is good. We've gone a point clear of Brighton. We've gone up to 16th place. Nothing to get excited about. I shouldn't be celebrating going up to 16th place. It's only because West Brom and Sheffield United are so bad as to why we are not in the bottom three. I wouldn't say Fulham are a bad side, by the way. They just draw too many games, and they've got Liverpool at Anfield after our game is just finished, and you wouldn't be surprised if Fulham, got a result against Liverpool at Anfield, because they've been woeful at home this season, and it's not really come to my surprise. But in terms of the actual game, there's not much more I can say about it. It was just that predictable game that we were all expecting. Sam Allardyce versus Steve Bruce. You're not going to get an exciting game. You're not going to get absolute drama, and I feel like it's a better point for us than for West Brom, in a sense that we go 9 points clear of West Brom, who are trying to get out of the relegation zone. They would have seen this as a winnable game. As for us, well, yes, it was a winnable game, but it just puts us like that daylight between ourselves and West Brom, who are in 19th. But still, at the end of the day, it's one of those where we're going to look back and think, why didn't we take our chances? Why did Steve Bruce not start Dwight Gale rather than Joe Linton? And why was Jeff Hendrick starting? Why can't you bring on one of the Longstaff brothers? Where's Matt Ritchie? For a bit of quality. Jamal Lewis, you could have actually started him rather than Dummett. A bit of a conservative approach. I like Dummett, but I would never have started him in this game. You want Jamal Lewis where he's actually going to get you further up the pitch to maybe put a ball into the box. But yeah, just one of those games, 90 minutes that we'll all never get back. And we'll move on to the Villa game on Friday. It's a big one at home. Not be an easy match because Villa are on a good season, and we've just got to look to try and pick up as many points as possible, and we'll go from there. But thank you so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm trying to get to 3,700 subscribers. Hit the like button and put your comments down below what you thought of the match. But in the end, at the Hawthorns, it's finished West Bromwich Albion 0, Newcastle United 0. Have a good week, and how are the lads?